Hello and welcome to the Fit and Free podcast. This is a podcast for women who want it all, to feel strong and confident in their bodies, as well as enjoying a sneaky mug on a Friday night. I'm an exercise physiologist and sports nutritionist, here to teach you how to achieve your body goals without food and your body controlling your life. So let's jump in. Hello, you guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Fit and Free podcast. I am on such a high because I just sat down with my long-term client Liz and we've just had such a beautiful conversation. So the reason why I love bringing my clients on is because, guys, these women were just like you. And I love sharing their story because it really shows you what is actually possible for you when you start focusing on the right things. Liz has such an inspirational journey, and I know you guys are going to take so much out of it from hearing her struggles, where she was to where she is now. And I really hope that this inspires you to take the action that you need in order to change. So let's jump into the episode. Liz, thank you so much for coming on the podcast with me today. I'm so grateful to have you here. I would love it if you could tell the amazing listeners a little bit about you, where you're from, what you do, and what your hobbies are.
Well, thank you so much for asking me to come on and chat with you today. I love listening to your podcast, so I feel very privileged to be talking to you. So I am based in Brisbane. I'm from Bundaberg originally, but I've moved down here for uni and just never left, much to my parents' dismay. I work for a not-for-profit. We work in the child and family sector. So we do a lot of advocacy work and policy and research. So that keeps me quite busy. And then in my free time, I really enjoy going to Pilates and running. I've got two dogs. I've got two cavoodles, so I walk them a fair bit as well. And I have actually recently decided to take up piano lessons. I learned piano in primary school, so I've decided that I'm going to use my brain in a different way and learn piano again.
You always seem to amaze me, honestly. Like the amount of stuff that you do in a day is just like so inspirational. And honestly, working with you has just been such a dream. So I would love it if you could tell us a little bit about exactly what you tried just before we started working together. Because I remember you telling me the story about it and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. So I had been suckered into yet another 12-week challenge. I remember signing up to it. It was like New Year's Eve and I was, new year, new me. And I'd never really been a New Year's resolution person, but I don't know, 2024 was going to be different. No, 2023.
Yeah.
And yeah, I signed up for this really popular online coach who was advertising like personalized meal plans and check-ins each week, and you'll lose this amount of weight in this length of time. And I had seen quite a few of like their client posts on social media,
Yeah.
and I was like, sold, done, like sign me up. And I filled out the application form, and I've got a few food intolerances and that kind of thing, so I was quite descriptive with that. And then I got my first food plan through, and it had every single food that I was intolerant to. So I emailed them through and was like, hey, like I can't have these things, like what can I adjust it with? And like I'm pretty good with subbing out foods for my intolerances, but when you're paying quite a bit to be working with someone, you don't want to have to be rewriting the meal plan that they've sent through to you. So, completed the first week, and then the next week I got a different coach that checked in with me. And again, all of the foods that I was intolerant to were included. And this just continued for like 6 weeks of me emailing them back and forth, being like, hey, I've not met you before, because I worked with 6 different people across those 6 weeks. And letting them know that like the meal plan, there were some things that I just couldn't eat. So yeah, I was feeling really disheartened and frustrated that I was spending all of this money, and they had really advertised the fact that it was a personalized approach and you'd be working with this coach, like the owner of the business. And then when you signed up and you locked in for the 12 weeks, that wasn't what was happening. Yeah.
That breaks my heart, honestly. I see it all the time is like people work with these coaches and they walk away with, just a destroyed relationship with food and just like hopeless because they're like, oh, well, I just tried this and I failed. It must be me. I must be the issue. But it's absolutely not you. It's not the person most of the time. Most of the time, it's, really poor nutrition and exercise advice. And it just breaks my heart to see it all the time. Like when someone comes to me and they're like, yeah, this coach told me I wasn't allowed to have dessert, or this coach told me I wasn't allowed to eat out. Like, what is that going to do to someone's relationship with food? Of course you're going to feel guilty. Of course you're going to, create all these food rules because, this person who looks a certain way is telling you that you can't do something, and you feel like then you have to follow that to look that way. And of course it's just going to be a recipe of disaster.
Yeah. And it really just perpetuates that, restriction binge cycle, because you feel like you can't have these things, or, I'll start again on Monday. Like when I get my new plan through, like I'll just write off the rest of the week, and it's not healthy, and it's not the best way to live at all.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Not only for like a body point of view, right? Like the binge restrict situation is like lots of food, not much food. So of course you're physically going to feel like shit. Your energy is going to drop. You're not going to be able to progress in the gym. But then the emotional toll that comes with that, it's like from so many levels, it's absolutely not an amazing way to live your life. So with that being said, so you struggled with this coach, you finished up. I don't even know if you finished up. Did you like sign it kind of cross paths when you found me?
I think I had like 4 weeks left.
Yeah.
And then, I was just like, I can't. I obviously like paid out the last of my 12 weeks. I didn't just ghost them, but I didn't finish that challenge.
Yeah. So during like this transition period, what were your like desires and goals up until this point now?
Coming out of that and starting with you, like my desire was still just to be smaller. Like I had lost quite a bit of weight through a breakup, and then had like naturally started gaining it back when, you get happier and you start eating again and all the things. And so I was wanting to get back to this really tiny body. And so that's what I was chasing. Like I was just chasing that, like that feeling of being smaller. And I wasn't recognizing the fact that there was so much more to it than my body size. Like there was more that I had to work through.
Yeah, it's hard. More often than not, we are so unaware. We are so unaware because I like to say it's like, we have this deep rooted problem that we don't actually realize, but we have all these symptoms, and the symptoms is, I just want to be smaller. I'll be happy when I am a certain size. And this is how, then we choose our nutrition and exercise, but we don't really realize it's that attachment and that, that tying our need to having those things is ultimately the reason why is not getting those things, because we keep self-sabotaging along the way. And that's, now working together for so long, and that's why I speak about it all the time, is like our mindset, like our body composition is only like, we're only going to get so far if our mindset is in check. And if it's not, and we're not actually looking at that, then you're not going to be successful with your body composition. So I'm like so grateful that you're coming on and, sharing this story, is because so many people are struggling in this space and they don't even realize. So I hope this can be like a really light bulb moment for some who might be struggling. So I want to get more into the story, because I think the more we dive deep into it, then people might be able to like, holy shit, that's what I'm doing. So when you were, chasing this smaller body, like how were you feeling? Like when you're going through that, like what did your life look like? What, what were your thoughts? What were you thinking during that time?
I was just completely consumed with it. Like everything that I did revolved around whether or not, I would have to go out and eat, or if I could still get exercise in, or, like having those moments where you've been invited to go somewhere and you put on your outfit and it doesn't look good, or it doesn't feel right, or whatever. And you have that's it, I'm not going moment. And, staying home because I felt like I shouldn't be going out or didn't deserve to be going out or whatever. So yeah, it was all consuming, and I felt so isolated because I wasn't allowing myself to go out and socialize with friends and family, or, deviate from my plan, because I just wanted to be smaller. And I thought that's when I would be happy, when I was smaller.
And now reflecting in on that, when you were in your smallest body, were you the happiest?
No. I mean, aside from the fact that like it was from heartbreak,
Yeah.
no, like, you've got the brain fog and you feel fatigued, and your gym sessions aren't as good as what you know that they can be. You're not lifting as much or moving the weights as easily as what you used to be able to. So in hindsight, no, like I wasn't happier when I was smaller.
Yeah. Sometimes it's like, I remember that same experience. It's like I got to my first, proper calorie deficit that I did with this coach, and I was in the smallest body that I'd ever been in. And I like looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, holy fuck, Laura, like you have taken this too far. You are so unhappy. Like you don't have your period. You have no energy. You are so irritable. Like, you thought this thing was going to give you the confidence and the happiness and the, to live this absolute dream life that a smaller body is promising you, but it's actually done the opposite. So I love this conversation because it's like so many people think that, this thing is going to give them all this happiness, when it's actually like you can have all of that now, and you can have the happiness and the confidence, because at the end of the day, all of those things are an internal choice. And when you can flip that switch, which you have done, and it's been such a beautiful to witness. It's like when you can flip that internal switch and start operating from a place of confidence now, regardless of what your body looks like, achieving the body composition goals becomes fucking easy, because it's no longer this roller coaster of emotions that are attached with it.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to learn the hard way, right? Yeah. So what was rock bottom? What was the tipping point?
Tipping point was when I received yet another plan, very generic plan, filled with all the things that, I needed to sub out. And I had been watching your TikToks, like going back to your profile on TikTok and rewatching your videos over and over again. And you just really resonated with me. But in my mind, I was like, I can't sign up to yet another fitness coach thing. Like this person that I'm working with, I had lost all trust in them. And I was really just like toing and froing as to whether or not it was the right thing to do to sign up with someone else. And then I eventually looked at your webpage and I was like, sold. So yeah, rock bottom was just, I think that feeling of knowing like you can achieve your goals, but just feeling so let down and disheartened when the person that you are trying to work with to support you to get to those goals, just like I just felt like a number when I was working with the previous coach. And I just had this feeling that working with you, especially because you do take on such a small number of clients each intake, I knew that I wouldn't have that same experience with you. Like I just knew that it would be more genuine and, coming from like a place of caring as opposed to just like
I'm
another
going to get your before and after photo, and I'm going to put you as my marketing.
Yeah. And this person lost 10 kilos in 8 weeks or whatever. And yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's really important, because like, even from my own experience, it's like you have to mesh with the coach. Like you really do. Like you really need to ultimately build a nice relationship with, because like, otherwise, how are you supposed to be honest? And if you're not honest with the person that's, trying to help you, then it's like, well, how are they supposed to help you? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So like my best transformations with all of my clients are the ones who are open and who are vulnerable and who are, basically honest from day dot. As you build the relationship, obviously that gets a lot easier over time. Like my coaching containers of women with 12 weeks versus my ones with 12 months is a completely different conversation, because we've had the time. But like, it's so important to be able to feel safe and secure with the person that you're working with. Because I've had male coaches in the past, and I was like, that is the worst thing, especially when I had a poor relationship with food in my body. I was like, that is the worst thing that I ever could have done for myself, because it was the same. It was the before and after photos. It was like, yeah, you'll lose weight like this, you'll look like this, you'll work with this coach. There's a guy, and I was like, having mental breakdowns for going over my calories, but I was so terrified of being honest with him. Like, this is actually what's going on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally agree with you in that. So when you're going through like, looking at the TikToks and, I remember looking at some of my coaches for like weeks and months before I would even reach out. Like I totally I resonate with that so much. How did you overcome that initial fear of sending the message to me and reaching out?
I think it was just the fact that like I kept coming back to your page and I kept rewatching your videos. And the way that I looked at it was like, I'm already spending this much with this coach and I'm not getting the results that I want.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the harm in just trying like one more time? Like when I was looking at, your content, you weren't doing the clickbait stuff. It wasn't, here's the before and after of someone who lost a substantial amount of weight in a short amount of time, or, you were just being really genuine. And the way that I looked at it was like, well, what's the worst that can happen? I spend however much working with this person for 12 weeks and I don't get the results that I want. How is that different to what I'm doing now? So yeah, that's how I that's how I reason with myself about actually sending an inquiry to you.
Yeah, no, that's so beautiful. And this says a lot about you just to, I love your mentality, and you've always led your life like that. Is like you're such a fixer. Like if you've got a problem, you've got such a good mindset to, don't see it as necessarily as a problem, maybe initially, but then, being able to really flip your mindset, and you're always, how can I be better? How can I fix this? How can I hold myself to a high standard? Is such an admirable trait about you. Sometimes, of course, it's our Achilles, but like in saying that, like the positives have definitely outweighed the negatives now. So that's been, so beautiful to have in a coaching container, because I'm like, yes, showing up, love it. But with that, like, was there a little bit of worry about, what I would think about what you wanted to achieve, or how did you feel
Yeah,
there?
definitely. To begin with, I was really hesitant to be super honest and transparent when I was filling out that initial application, because like I recognize the fact that I am already in a leaner physique. And so sometimes when you say to people like, I want to lose a little bit of extra body fat, or, I want to tone up or whatever, you feel a bit judged by them. And I was really worried that I would be told that like what I was wanting to achieve wasn't the right goal for me, because like that's the other thing that I'm sometimes that I had sometimes experienced was people responding and saying, well, you're already a size, whatever. Why do you want to get leaner? And it's like, because that's my goal.
Yeah.
So I was really worried that that was the way that you were going to respond as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally get that fear. It's just like, oh, you already look so good sort of
Yeah.
vibes.
Yeah.
But no, like I'm always the type of person, and I'll always be like that, is I always like to understand why people want to do things and why people are acting a certain way, because at the end of the day there's always, a deeper reason of why. And like, if the why is like it makes sense to me, then I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, let's go, that's absolutely amazing. If it's a skewed why, then I would be questioning the why, and like coach would come in and just be like, okay,
Yeah.
what's really going on here? But yeah, no, absolutely. So I'm always, I would never judge someone.
No, and that's what
An old version of me probably would. I'm probably going to be honest. Maybe when I was a bit younger, but now,
yeah.
absolutely not. Because I
Yeah.
understand people have patterns and they do things for a certain reason. And sometimes, our unconscious really takes over, and our, trauma pops up in left, rights, and centers, and our triggers, and, all the things. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of compassion there. So now I want to go into, what were the results? What did we accomplish over our time together?
I feel like we accomplished so much. Um, I feel like I went through so many different phases with you. But the proudest accomplishment is finally reaching a point of like just neutrality. Is that
Mm,
right? Is that how you pronounce it? I always
yeah.
get stumbled on that. But I remember when we first started working together, and you would say, like, if you can just feel neutral about these things, like about your body or your pictures or your calories,
Same.
whatever, that's when you will really start to see the progress and you'll really start to transform. And I would always, I would get a bit frustrated because I'm like, but if I don't care about these things, like if I don't care about what the scale's saying or what my measurements are saying, like how am I going to achieve my goals? And then I did start to feel really neutral about those things. And that's when we started to see like the progress, I guess. So once again, you were right.
The only reason I know that I'm right is because it's the same lesson that I had to learn in changing my own body composition. A massive lesson that I had to learn in running my own business is the art of detachment. I would love for you to elaborate and kind of explain why, because I know there's going to be a lot of listeners who are in the same boat as you. It's like, well, if I stop caring, if I stop looking at things and, really being hyper fixated on them like you were, then that means I'm not going to get to my goals. I'm not disciplined enough. And I'm scared if I'm not disciplined enough, then I'm not going to get the result that I want.
Yeah. So that was something that we talked about a lot. And you would always explain it to me that, like, just because you feel neutral about it, it doesn't mean that, you've stopped caring, because there's always going to be like, because it's something that you're working towards, like it's always going to be something that you care about, but you don't need to put so much pressure on yourself about it.
So much.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so once I started looking at it from a place of, okay, so what is this telling me, as opposed to, oh, I've failed this week because I look more bloated, or I went over my calories, or I didn't hit my exercise. I was able to, yeah, just take a step back, look at it like data, and take stock of what's happening internally. Yeah, so that was a really freeing moment, or like journey, I guess, because it had consumed me for so long. And then I finally reached this place where I was just eating the things that made me feel good, and, that optimized my workouts. And if I put on a pair of jeans and they felt tight that day, okay, cool, I'll wear something else. Like, it doesn't mean anything. So it was just the most freeing like thing that I could have experienced. And I will forever be grateful that you like helped me get to that point, because I'm no longer constantly consumed with thoughts of, you know, am I going to hit my steps, or am I going to, be able to fit these things into the day? Like, it's just, oh my God, it's the best feeling.
Yeah. Like, it's such an amazing feeling, and that's why I want like every single woman in this world to feel this way. And it just blows my mind to, like, I just scroll on social media, and I even look at other health and fitness coaches and things like that, and it's like, they're saying like, I still struggle with food guilt, and I'm still struggling with like body image and things like that. And I'm just like, I truly believe that this stuff can fully be transcended. Like, women don't have to have bad body image. They don't have to have this negative relationship with food, but that's because they're not actually focusing on, actually fixing that problem. Because, people just think that losing weight is going to fix their body image, but losing weight doesn't fix that. It's actually like completely a different conversation, and it's totally different transformation. And I truly believe that everyone deserves that. And I'm just like, listening to you right now, I'm just like, I'm getting goosebumps, because like, holy shit, you 12 months ago and you coming to say this now just absolutely blows my mind on like, you've undone like, 30 years of, well, obviously not 30 years, but like, maybe not when you're a baby, you're thinking about food and, but like,
Yeah.
you struggled with your body image and a poor relationship with food and exercise probably for a good portion of your life, right? Before this.
Yeah. And I think I was looking back at like the progress that I had made over the 12 months that we had worked together. And I was thinking back to like the relationship that I had had with my body and with food. And, it's not quite 30 years, but I remember having my first negative thought about my body when I was like 5 years old.
Yeah.
And so these things are so, deep seated in us.
Yeah.
And it really makes me sad that there are so many women out there that are experiencing the same thing, and that we put so much pressure on ourselves to look a certain way, and like that, yeah, just like being totally consumed by it and not being able to think about much else. It's exhausting. And
Yeah.
I wish that everyone could could work with you and like transcend these really limiting thoughts.
Yeah, and I think something that I also want to point out, because I know, like, you know, some of my current clients are struggling with it, but I think something I really need to draw everyone's attention to is, like, you know, Liz worked on this stuff for 12 months. Like, this is not something that, you know, just changes overnight. It's not something that changes in 6 weeks. It's not something that changes fully even in 12 weeks. So if you're struggling in your journey right now, know, and I sound like a broken record, and you'll probably be like, yeah, I heard you say that again so many times. It's like those 1%ers, like every single time, every single moment where you choose differently actually add up to ultimately getting to this place where Liz is right now. But that's because she did the freaking work for a year. She did what it took in order to continue to challenge her thoughts, challenge her beliefs, show up with her food, like blow out completely, get triggered AF, and then have to like come full circle and like had to face me and being like, yeah, this happened. And then I would have to be like, okay, what did we learn this time? Every single time. Right. And that's the difference between the people who grow and the people who don't, are the ones who are willing to look at their own shit, basically, and come in. And that's something, again, that Liz had to learn, is the curiosity and compassion piece. Instead of going straight into judgment, I'm a failure, I'm not getting anywhere, being able to change that into, oh, what happened there? Why did I do that? What's going on? What am I not looking at? Okay, cool. What do I have to change? What do I have to let go of in order to really move forward with that? So that's what I just want to remind every single person that's listening to this podcast. And it's beautiful because, you know, we're speaking about these, you know, coaches that are showing you these, you know, lose X amount of kilos in 12 weeks or whatever that looks like. It's like a real health and fitness journey is one that's going to take you time. And when I say time, and I always refer to my own story, it's like I've really started my healing journey when I was like 20, probably 5, 6, and now I'm 30. So, you know, that's like a lot of that time was, you know, healing from basically the inside out to really get into this really, you know, confident place where I am with my body, nutrition and exercise. And, you know, nothing is, you know, it's not even an issue for me anymore, but like that's 5 years later. So I appreciate you even coming on and sharing your part of that journey, because I don't want to say it's frustrating, because that's life, right? There's always going to be a new challenge, but everything good takes time, like a uni degree, you know, a job, whatever. So I would love now to talk about some physical results that you saw in your body during the time together.
Yeah. So I leaned out, like because I wasn't stuck in that binge restrict cycle. Like not only did my centimeters obviously drop, but like also the bloating and discomfort that I was experiencing, and just like that really swollen, like, you know, distended lower belly, that disappeared too, which was really nice. Yeah, so I not only achieved like my physical goals of leaning back out, but it also like transformed my mind as well. And I'm sorry that I keep coming back to the mindset, but like that's my most favorite part of this journey, is like the mindset transformation. Um, yeah. And
Yeah.
also like adding to the fact that, you know, I then started and training for a half marathon. And like the PBs that were coming with that, you know, doing that work with you, like I feel like we ticked lots of boxes.
Yeah,
Achieved
absolutely.
lots
And
of
that's
things.
absolutely. And that's like why I'm so passionate about like both sides of the story, in terms of like finding food freedom, but then also optimizing your nutrition. That's why I really like to bring both worlds together, in terms of the sports nutrition world and like the intuitive eating world. Because like, you know, if we went full intuitive eating style and just like, yeah, eat whatever you want when you feel like it, you know, real food freedom, like eat donuts every day, I'm like, well, that's not, you know, supportive of your goals and how, like, the things that you want to achieve, and it's probably going to make you feel like shit. So I think it's important that, we, optimize your nutrition as well, to making sure you're fueling adequately and eating the right foods that are making you feeling amazing, and ultimately then being able to get these PBs and get stronger in the gym and all the things that we were able to do, which is freaking amazing. What was the biggest thing that you learned from the Fit and Free Academy? Big game-changing takeaways?
So much. Like, where do I even start? But I think the biggest takeaway is that I now have the confidence to make those changes myself. Like, I don't need to rely on someone sending me through a meal plan each week for me to, like, tweak certain things if I ever wanted to do so. So yeah, really just like finding that confidence within myself, and to trust that, like, I can do it and I know how to do it. So yeah, just like that confidence and trust within myself.
Yeah, absolutely. You've come such a long way with that, especially because that was obviously your biggest sabotaging moment, is your lack of self-trust and feeling like that you weren't getting anywhere, and then it wasn't going to be possible for you. So there was a lot of work that we had to do in and around that. But because you've done that, like, you wouldn't be sitting here now being so, confident, secure, in control, and excited about, what's next in the future, which is really cool to see. So what is possible for you now that you've achieved everything that you have over the last 12 months?
Oh, that's a big question. Like, this is probably going to sound a bit wanky, but I now feel like the sky's my limit. But like, when I first came to you, like, I lacked so much confidence in every area of my life. I didn't back myself in anything. And I think that that's why I was chasing this smaller physique, because if I'm smaller, I'm more worthy and I'll be more loved, which isn't true at all. But yeah, like, I now have the confidence and trust within myself to be able to do literally whatever I want. I was talking to one of my friends about, coming on your podcast, and he was saying to me that, like, he's really proud of the fact that I even said yes, because he's like, the
With
Elizabeth.
no hesitation either. And there was excitement about it when I first asked you.
Yeah, he's like, the Elizabeth 12 months ago wouldn't have even like
That.
acknowledged that request. So yeah, just like an overall confidence within myself. Like, I value myself now, which is, it makes me really sad to think that at one point I didn't value myself.
Yeah. Yeah, I fully resonate with that as well, because sometimes I'm just like, I just want to give little Laura like the biggest hug and just say, you've so got this. But during those moments when, you lack the sense of worth and you lack that internal security, like, everything is so hard because everything is so fucking scary.
Yeah.
So I fully get that. So this is a perfect end to the episode. So if you could go back and give yourself advice, what would that advice be?
Trust yourself. Like, put more trust in yourself. You can achieve literally anything that you want. Your worth isn't determined by the body that you're in. You're so much more than the number on the scales or the size of your jeans. And also, like, coming and working with you, it was the first time that I actually genuinely felt safe and secure enough to be really open and vulnerable with someone. And I always was. And that's what, like, I really loved about our working relationship, was that I was just always so open with you. And so, yeah, like, I would tell myself to just sit in that discomfort and be open, be vulnerable, because that's when things will change.
That is such good advice, because you're so right. Being open and being vulnerable and being honest, like, it's hard to be honest with yourself, let alone as someone that you've just kind of met on the internet through Instagram. Like, it's pretty wild when I say it out loud like that, like, you've never met them in person. You've just, so of course, like, it makes so much sense to why we have our guard up, and especially, people with, lower self-esteem and struggling with their body image and food, all the things, it comes hand in hand with the low confidence. So it's such a challenging thing. So I appreciate you sharing that advice to everyone, because it's such good advice of really trying to be vulnerable and open and honest with somebody else. And that's something that I really reflected on, even with that last podcast that I did with Niels, is like, I was, relying on him for so much of this healing work. And I think it's such an important thing to, have that person that you can shed your shit with, like, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
And it's such an important part of the journey. So I really appreciate you sharing that. And that was one of the things that really helped you to inspire someone else to, trust and to be open and to be vulnerable and to open their hearts, because ultimately at the end of the day, we close for protection and we're trying to keep ourselves safe. But at the end of the day, that's what's keeping us in our same story and in our same pattern. So
I think it's, sorry to interrupt.
Please.
I think it's also just like a testament to you, like, and the kind of person that you are and the kind of coach that you are, that you're able to hold that space for people to show up and be open and vulnerable. Like, I never once felt judged. When I was sending you teary messages, freaking out.
which I love.
But you care so much about each of your girls that are working with you, and you always hold that space. And I think that, like, that you're just wonderful to work with.
I have not paid her to say this.
But no, like, me being able to be open and vulnerable, like, that's such a testament to you and the kind of person that you are too.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And thank you for saying that. That's so kind of you. And and it just goes to show though, but the other side of it is like, you showed up to the calls, you did, you met me halfway. And that's why, you have been so successful, is because, you were open and vulnerable, which meant that you came and talked to me every, 2 weeks, and you were, sharing your story, and you were, getting the help that you ultimately needed. And I think that's another thing that I just wanted to speak to. It's like, people sign up for coaching containers, they sign up for programs, yet they're not, really, being involved in it. It's like the mindset piece, I think, is like, it's the most important thing. And the best way to move through all of those things is the live coaching. So, and also, like, just the honesty piece if you, can't show up live and all things there. So, thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate you. So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you in the next episode. Bye. The number one challenge that all my clients face before we start working together is a lack of clarity on how much and what to eat to lose weight. Often they are making two huge mistakes: constantly trying to skip meals or eat under 1,600 calories. Secondly, only allowing themselves bad foods like chocolate on the weekend, but end up binging, all to tell themselves they're going to start again on Monday. If you feel like you have tried every diet under the sun and still can't figure out what to eat to achieve your weight loss goals, take my free 2-minute quiz. You can find the link in the show notes down below. And it will help you figure out exactly what you're doing wrong with your nutrition and exercise, and exactly what to do to fix it, so that you can finally be confident in your body and achieve your weight loss goals.